Most businesses, they look at assets as just purely assets. If for whatever reason they need to dispose of an asset or whatever, it's, the asset can go. But in a farm, a successful farmer would say, I managed to better the place, leave it in such a way that I could hand it over in maybe better shape to the next generation. It's definitely something that most farmers would say that is heavy on their mind,
I'm Rosler. We're here in Wells House and I'm a farmer. My father was a businessman. He had a textile factory in Germany. He then wanted to diversify. So he decided that it would be a good life to have a farm. So he decided then to buy a farm in the 60s. It was very interesting for me, especially seeing all the tractors that they had here and also the animals which I had no contact with previous to that. Everything was new and also people spoke a different language. You learned quick. My father sent me off to the nuns in Enniscorthy to learn English. I came back to school here later on and then I went to agricultural college because I liked it so much. So I did a degree in agriculture. We have bull weanings, Charolais and cemental Charolais crosses. They're about 9 months old now. They're being taken away from the mothers. So they're now starting to eat meal. They're going to stay in for the next 2 months or so and then probably going to be sold off. And the females I keep and I pick out the best ones and I use them then in 2 years' time for breeding maiden heifers.
You're in the Great Hall in Wells House and Gardens, and this here is the Right Honourable Robert Doyne, and he bought the house in 1701. My name is Sabina Rosler and I run the tourism side of Wells House and Gardens. Met my husband in Agricultural College, in Garteen Agricultural College.
My father died in 2006 and then my mother, the whole estate started to fall into disrepair and so she passed it on to us in 2011. My father, luckily he already started with the roof. So then my wife and myself, we said, what are we going to do with it? We can't just let it fall apart.
When we inherited in 2011, it was closed once Grandad had died. I wanted to open up the house. Uli was farming and I had the bookkeeping business and it needed to be opened up and allow people in.
We have about 450 acres and we have a suckler herd and we do tillage. In order to do Wells House and Gardens, we reduced our herd and with the money we did the gardens and we did the woodland walks.
We restored the Victorian terrace and we put in a new playground. We opened up the 6 rooms downstairs in the house for tours. We had a small tea rooms. Now that has expanded hugely since we opened. The next big project, but probably we'll go for funding for that, would be the restoration of the basement. So you have the whole upstairs downstairs thing going on. So the gardeners and the workmen would have come in through here. This comes in from the courtyard where the horse stables and everything were. And they come into the house. So the kitchen would have been here and the cook would have been working in the kitchen. So all the silver would have been stored in here. And you see, you still have the original presses and you also have the old sink that he would have cleaned the silver at. That's really old. So we've quite a bit of work to do down here, but this would be the next major project.
We started off where the farm subsidised the house, and now, of course, it's the other way around.
You can really only spend what comes in and the challenge is to make a profit, which we do. Well, in the summer now, on payroll, we would have had 28 staff. And then we've about 11 other businesses that operate under the umbrella of Wells House and Gardens.
What makes Wells pretty much unique is that it's run as a commercial farm where they've made a conscious decision to look after the big house, in fact embrace it and look after it. Wexford needs places like this to bring tourists into the area, so it's still playing its part in the area. But also what has been maintained is the whole history of the house.
In the farming, they were very progressive and they had a lending library There's little books that they loaned out to the farmers, and they would be the latest methods of farming.
Well, the house didn't get burned down in the troubled times.
They came to burn down the house, but it was salvaged by a gentleman called Thomas Murphy. You know, it's a huge part of history. It deserves to be done. I'm doing it for ourselves. Otherwise, I'd never have done it, because it's a huge challenge. But I'm ultimately doing it for the house and the grounds. And my motivation would be that it's not falling down on our watch.
What's happening here is similar to a lot of farms, whereby a successor becomes apparent, and what you're trying to do is build up the business so that they have a slot in the business.
We have 5 children between the two of us.
There is some interest in some of them coming home, but our challenge is to provide them with something that they can come home to. Obviously, they don't have to. You know, it may be that some of them won't come home, and it may be that some of them will. Like, what you see now is really the very beginnings of something that will change drastically over a period of years, because we're only open 2.5 years now, and we've achieved quite a lot in that time. So the farming is still a huge part of Wells House and Gardens, and the farm looks after the family, whereas the tourism money and the support that we get from all the people, that goes back into the next thing.